Greetings everyone, my name is Napoleon Complex, I go by Ludendorff in Slitherine forums, and welcome to the 20th anniversary tournament for Slitherine in Field of Glory. So the goals of this tournament are simple. You are not just ranked on whether you win or not, unlike the Digital League, but you are also ranked on whether or not you can get the highest percentage over your opponents possible. So whoever wins most decisively ultimately gets the most points in the tournament and ultimately wins the tournament. So, in order to achieve this, my opponents will be bringing an army, I believe, of phalanxes and heavily armoured medium infantry, which will probably outclass my front line. Now, he may go for a cheap approach and try to outrange me, but I suspect that is the approach he is going to take. I suspect that this rough ground will also cause me problems. So what I have done is I have placed part of my line here, including my veteran hoplites, the strongest part. And their role is going to be to hold this front line while the mass of my army goes around the sides. And as you can see, I've weighted this flank. My plan, and you can see it from my structure here, is to steadily extend this line forward like the links of a chain unfolding, so that I steadily envelop the left side of the opposing army. Now this formation may have to extend a little bit further to the right. I'm prepared to do that. That's why I've moved my troops out towards this direction a little bit. I think I'll do it here as well. Just in case we take that approach, because this is all the same command group, it won't cause me any problems. And I've got some skirmishers to cause them some difficulties as well, as I hope to kind of knock off the right side of his arm, well, the left side of his army with my right skirmishers. And that should make this area even weaker. And also, as I start to overextend his line, it should start to bring his assault here to a halt, as he will not be able to advance without overextending himself, and that is my plan for the battle. And the closer I can get to a clean 40% to 0 victory, the better it will be for me as the tournament goes on. But for now, that is the end of the first turn. See you next one. May the gods of the RNG be absent on this day, my opponent says. That's extremely dangerous. He's left a gap on the side here. I suspect I suspect that I'd expect the mercenary hoplites to slide in here and the Thorakita to go over here. But if he leaves a gap here, he's exposing himself. We need to hurry up. Lots of cavalry, as I'd expect. I'll need to use my own infantry to hold that up. Nothing shocking or unexpected yet. I don't see any reason to hurl my skirmishers headlong into the fight. This could be problematic. I'll maybe hold this line back and then charge up to the rough ground once these Uzona get closer, because I don't want to get drawn out of formation. He's brought 2 units of Zeiss to Foroi. I need my mercenaries and citizens to help me out. Well, ideally the maneuverable mercenaries to help me out here, but the thing, well, we'll move like this for now. Alright, not ideal movement there. So you can see that my unmaneuverable status is making it a little bit more difficult for me to progress as fast as I like. I will need to tidy this up before the lines clash. Keep the cavalry mixed in with the infantry, because the truth is I don't know where those Istophori are going to end up. I want my mercenary hoplites in front of the Istophori, and I want my armoured cavalry facing the opponent's armoured cavalry. I do not want it the other way around, because my armoured cavalry will get eaten alive by those Istophori. Also, whoever ends up confronting that cavalry general is going to be the one who needs a general. I may bring some skirmishers over to help with this. Next turn. Oh, my opponent is recording this match as well, apparently. So this should be interesting. No, I really want to win now. Okay, nothing too unexpected so far. Right, here comes the rest of his line. He's got quite a deep formation, but that's not caused me problems in the past. Ah, this could. Looks like we might not get to the rough ground in time. I'm definitely going to need the mixed formation in order to deal with this cavalry assault, because my armoured cavalry won't be able to stand up to his lancers. Just coming out to threaten the sides of these cavalry. Oops, don't know what happened there. Right, it's fairly obvious how I'm setting up here. Thing is, I need to get him. Well, the thing is, he's beating me to the rough ground because he'll be there next turn and he'll be here next turn. It'll take me at least another. Well, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to make use of the rough ground here to block him off, which is unfortunate. Let's see. Well, I've got these units here to try and overhang his line. What we need to do, I think, is try to swing out a little bit. Right, move up these units into a line, like so. And okay, turn like that. There we go. That saves us from potential for charge. Effects of a potential charge. Although these Uzonoi give way suddenly. I'll have to take the risk. Because they could be engaged by this. No, I think I've stopped that. So these guys are safe from any sudden unpleasantness. And his line's spreading out. He's surprisingly weak on this side. Coming out of formation here, but I'm in a bit of a hurry, so that's why. Trying to swing out a little bit so that I've got some room between me and his formation as it advances. Superior Warband's a bit scary. Okay, and start moving up here, I think. Alright. I think we're good to go. Next turn. So Hyde says I've gone for quantity over quality. Well, quantity... It's the old cliche, quantity has a certain quality of its own. Why would he do that? Oh, because I'd flank him otherwise. Makes sense. Yes, I do tend to go for a high quantity of troops, and that is simply because I feel it does give an advantage on the battlefield. Although this isn't very nice. Again, I need to get my mercenary hoplites over so that they match those lancers. And he's going very long line. He's overextending himself though. I wonder if I don't have time to do something rather nasty to these skirmishers. Problem is it can't... Oh, bring me out of formation, that's the only thing. By all means, stay there and harass my front line. Because next turn I'm going to charge you, and then these units are going to flank you. This isn't working out as well as I'd hoped, because he's kind of going to overextend. He's going to extend his line, and it's just not the way I'm setting this up. Just isn't going to work. Let's really maul those light javelin horse. Good, we got a disruption. So I need to start to expand my line as well. Okay, we've got a ton of troops that I need to swap around because they're not in the right places for approaching the rough ground. And if I really want to go long line and get around his flank, then I need to start moving now. Let's see, he's got a hole in his line, so he'll need to consolidate this. So he's got a hole here, so that could be exploited. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up to about so counting this unit as a whole. So he's up to about here, and then he's got 1, 2. He's only got 3 units left to outflank me with. The real threat right now is coming from his cavalry forces, who are threatening to get around my back. I wish I hadn't done that now, because these are probably going to evade. And I don't really want to get myself killed by his horse, so I'm just going to have to let him... I'm just going to have to acknowledge that. And try and do something else with my light horse. Not very good forward planning by me there. We have a straight shot at these guys. Let's see if we can get disruption. Alright, I'll give up the concentrated fire. Really? Now these units can't pull back. Not good. We're going to pull back and let's see if this works. Nope, it doesn't. I can't. I can only pull straight back. They can't move and then turn. And the problem is that if I move this unit, it's going to open up my more valuable medium foot to damage. So there's nothing for it. I'm just going to have to turn and try and get some concentrated fire. They hold firm, and that's really unfortunate for me. It's really not what I wanted to see at all here. Cavalry just close up. Should be able to cover the side of the board before he can move his Xystophori around. Those Xystophori lancers are quite scary, so I'm going to steal a general from my mercenary hoplites. And my infantry may be able to interfere in this fight and cause them more problems. Alright, next turn. That Galatian warband is extremely dangerous. Thankfully I know a way to slow him down. Oh, go away. This is gonna hurt. Another disruption. I'm gonna lose a skirmish at this rate. His infantry are starting to move up to support. Of course, the fact that he's overextended himself on the left is going to help. Right. Excellent. That should be okay, we can move up anyway. Move up to... well, I don't want to play my hand just yet. Let's see. Go for fragmentation here. Good. This is a little dangerous though, because well, retreat back, give them a thumping. If I charge, then my Izonoi could either end up here and get flanked to death, or just caught by a sudden flank charge, or alternatively they could end up trying to engage the slingers, and if the slingers stand and take that fight, then my troops are going to... there's all kinds of problems with this, so I think I'm going to have to hesitate a little bit around the enemy skirmishers. I have managed to kind of mess up these light javelinmen though. I wasn't planning to advance there. Right. Mercenary hoplites come out to confront this cavalry. I've done this before. No way. That's bad. Yeah, that's pretty bad, because now they are going to get charged. I really thought they'd stand their ground that close, but they decided to flee, and that was the correct decision, and now I'm in trouble. Great. So they are going to retreat. They're not going to go far enough. They're going to end up in trouble from the Xystophori. And that is in turn going to lead the dice to 4 right past my lines. Flaming light horse getting themselves in trouble. Okay, right, how am I going to deal with that? I can't really deal with it. They're going to go plug the hole in the line. And that means they can get past the trap I'm setting in the rough ground. This is a very, very frustrating situation, to be perfectly honest. Because the furthest they're going to run is 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll probably stop around here, or if we're very lucky, they'll get to here. And of course, I've already moved these units, so I can't adapt my plan. Let's see. Right, I'm planning to adopt a position here. Let's start to extend our line out a little bit to reflect that. Going to turn these. Oh goodness! What I'm really worried about is they're just going to go flying through everything, and probably knock the armored cavalry out of the way, and end up right behind my line. It might be worth not completely opening this up. You idiots. You utter idiots. Well, I'm not going to do anything else with them. I'd rather not just wait here for my, well, the thing is, those javelins won't do me much harm anyway. And someone's going to have to take a full volley from the slingers. Okay, it's not over yet. If I can put enough, so say if they flee to here, if I can put enough protections around the square, then I can possibly save them. Okay. That's hopefully bailed out my overly enthusiastic light foot. A little bit worried about placing. I could place this unit of 3 or 4 right here, but that wouldn't necessarily end well because the slingers could then come forward and bombard. Although I suppose they'd only get. Yeah, they could bombard from 2 squares and they could potentially disrupt this unit. Let's see. And I suppose start to move the line up here towards our defensive position. Alright, that was the whole thing about not tipping our hand. Well, you can probably see what I have the opportunity to do anyway. I need to hurry up in this flank because this defensive line on its own isn't going to be enough. Next turn. Okay, folks, I've decided to record my voice over this section after the fact because I get a little bit frustrated in this section. I don't really want to subject my audience to that, so let's just have a look at this section after the battle when I'm a little bit more cool-headed. So he pursues out, and that's probably a mistake because he's now isolated the spears, but as we'll see, that doesn't quite go to plan. He doesn't pursue my javelin for some reason, and those javelin horse could have been exposed. So it could have if his Ice4 had charged the backs of my light javelin horse, then he could have broken through and behind my line there. So I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. Now note how that I've pushed those skirmishers back and he's engaged with the 3 of 4i. Now that means that my 3 of 4i are now at a 2-to-1 disadvantage, and that ends up being critical later on. So here I'm obviously looking at the obvious flank attack, and I decide to go with it without checking because the odds are still pretty reasonable. I'm obviously worried about the possibility of a sudden disruption, so I do put my general on top of the unit. And at this point I think it's only a very small chance of losing that combat, but lo and behold, I blow the roll and this disrupts my unit, and now my entire left-hand side has gone from being in a very strong position to being an extremely weak one, because there is now a hole in my left flank, and to make matters worse, I will be outnumbered on the rough ground by a 2-to-3 margin, not counting his ample supply of skirmishers. So this is a disastrous moment in the battle for me, and things are suddenly looking very grave on the left, and I'm currently trying to work out what to do about this. Because I know that if I can wait just one more turn, I'll get the flank attack. It doesn't look too bad right now, but what I'm worried about is a dreaded double drop happening, where my already disrupted units lose again in melee, and then they drop 2 levels and they rout off the field. So over on the other flank, I am currently trying to look for a way to block those Ice4i with my mercenary hoplites. And I suppose what I'm really trying to do is also prevent the enemy cavalry from interfering with the flank attack, which I believe I'm going to be able to get against those mercenary hoplites who have exposed themselves to my army. Now I can't just turn those mercenary hoplites around to flank because the cavalry will intervene, so it has to be another unit. Now, for some reason I decided to move horizontally here rather than vertically. I would have been better off, I would have thought, moving my mercenary hoplites directly up to block the armoured cavalry off, but I know why I moved up there. Right, watch what happens here. They get pushed back, and that's because I put a general over on top of it. To be fair, if I hadn't put the general there, the opposite could have happened. I could have got another very unlucky roll, and the units could have fallen back, fragmented or something. But as it turns out, I get another moment of bad luck, because it means, as you can see, that his 3 or 4 I can move up and block the flank attack, and it means I don't get the flank attack there either. So now I've been frustrated on both flanks. Because the left is now in disarray and I can't make fast progress on the right because all of my flanking opportunities are starting to get blocked off. The cavalry are there, so I can't get my cavalry around to get behind his army, and he's kind of refused his right flank to me. So I'm having difficulties there. And also, because my troops have pushed up, I now have a problem with protecting the flanks of that unit, of overeager citizen hoplites, because I only need them to push back one more time and they'll get flanked by the 3 or 4 on the rough ground. So I'm currently trying to figure out a way to stop that. It takes me quite a while to figure out what to do with those javelin horse. Most of my cavalry is in a difficult position because, again, they're weak against decisive war. I need to keep them away from there, and even the armored cavalry isn't a particularly good result because armored cavalry is armored cavalry. That obviously confers no advantage to me whatsoever, and I'm trying to avoid those matchups and block him off instead with my spearmen so that the armored cavalry can use their mobility to do something useful like flank his infantry line. I pulled the skirmishers back here because they're kind of just basically to make room for my 3 or 4, and that is that flank safe now, but I've still got the other one to worry about. And it's not completely safe because he could, if a pushback happens, he could always move his other mediums forward to engage the flank while his 3 or 4 flank my units. So that was really quite a bad position for me to be in. And I think at that point, with the phalanx bearing down on me and my position on the left coming unraveled, plus the fact that this was a tournament battle, I was starting to feel quite pressured, and I was starting to believe that I really wouldn't be able to win the battle because the centre would probably just collapse under the weight of the phalanx. My right is now basically blocked from getting around the side, and the left is collapsing as well. So where do I go from there? So I didn't have a lot of faith in my strategy at this point in the game. And I started to moan like crazy about it, hence this intermission in my end-game speech. Now I do another stupid thing here. I charge my slingers and try to break those light javelin foot. They of course hold, and now my slingers are in a large amount of trouble because they are now disrupted and face to face with enemy slingers who are probably going to charge them, catch them, and break them next turn. Either that, or they could just sling a few stones at them and fragment them instead. Neither of which is a good position to be in. So at this point, I'm trying to work out what to do with my cavalry because I could just keep them behind my spearmen and have them push up. But what I'm thinking about trying to do is making a sudden dash through that gap to get them behind the lines. Now, I don't really know why I thought this was a realistic solution. Hyde has plenty of cavalry waiting behind the lines, ready to block that. But apparently I thought I could make a go of it, and I start making those moves anyway. And I think I do keep the other armored cavalry back in reserve, but I move the first one up, and that really just ends up blocking off my spearmen. So this is not, again, I'm frustrated at this point, and this is not particularly good play for me right now. So another thing to bear in mind when thinking about my mental state at this stage is I didn't actually have a lot of faith in my veteran hoplites to hold the battle line. And against the pike phalanx, I thought, well, the hoplites, it doesn't matter how good the hoplites are, they're still going to lose hard to a phalanx. But the veteran hoplites end up being a lot more capable than I gave them credit for. And we'll see later on that that becomes important during the rest of the battle. So we're coming towards the end of the turn now, and bit of sound left in. And of course I get the double drop and my left starts to fall apart and I am now panicking. Equal parts raging and panicking at this point because I can see the writing on the wall. I am now outnumbered by 3-2 units on the left flank. All Hyde has to do at this point is hold his phalanx back for a little bit while he gets the advantage on the against my left, and then the triumphant units on the left wander around my pikes and they narrowly avoid getting back attacked there, and they just flank in against the hoplites and the phalanxes just move up and destroy everything. Another, as if my nerves weren't on edge enough, that's another bad roll, although I managed to survive this one. So it's not looking good for me at all at this stage, and I really have my back against the wall. I move up to the rough ground to allow those 3 or 4 to perform their blocking action. But I know that I expect that rough ground to do pretty much nothing to stop the juggernaut that's coming my way. I do start to set up these citizen hoplites in 3 or 4 to threaten the flank of the pike phalanx, and that is something that could actually stop the pikes if I could do it on both sides. But because I can only do it on one side, they are just going to go into the square formation, and I've still got a problem. One thing I will say about Hyde here is he's possibly a little bit too impatient. If he'd held those pikes back a little bit, then well, just watch how the battle develops. So it's not looking particularly good on my right flank as well. As it happens, those units on the rough ground behind the front line are slingers that Hyde's got, so there's no longer a flank threat to my citizen hoplites if there's a pushback there. He had to move his remaining mediums off the rough ground to protect the flanks of the hoplites that got pushed back. I move these units in a very specific way so that they don't get pushed off the map by his Hyde's own javelin horse. So just a bit back and forth. That's a lucky roll for me there. And I decide to launch a volley at the Thorakitine, and that ends up being more important than you'd think later on in the battle. Now here I'm looking at the square because I'm hoping to turn his defending Thuria at 90 degrees to his line, and that will allow my cavalry to get a flank attack in. And I'm thinking of using my other units of armored cavalry to block any flank charges to try and frustrate that. However, if you look closely and imagine that those Istophori on the far right charge my armored cavalry, those armored cavalry will probably be forced to run away, and then of course the armored cavalry to the far north will be able to flank my soon to be engaged Thuria, so I have to bring them back. It's amazing how important the take back, the ability to cancel your move in Field of Glory has been to me, because I do like to experiment with different positions, move them out, make my decision, and If this was pike and shot, of course, that would get me into all kinds of trouble, as I'd end up moving my troops around positions that I hadn't checked properly yet, and yeah, that would lead to some pretty bad situations. So I eventually settle on moving my armoured cavalry up and my citizen hoplites. I make a rather bad call here with my cavalry again. That will just be in a moment, but I decide to try to move my armoured cavalry up through the gap. So they are... No, I decide against it because I can see at this point that, unlike in the previous turn where I couldn't quite seem to comprehend that there was no way my army was getting through that gap with all the cavalry shadowing it, I finally wisen up here and decide to not push up on through the left-hand side of those mercenary hoplites who are forming the main blocking force to his cavalry. So I instead just move my cavalry up a little bit, and what I'm hoping now to do is start attacking his cavalry if I can get an opportunity against them. So Hyde isn't actually feeling optimistic about this, apparently. Which is odd, because I thought he seems to have this unless something dramatic happens. All he has to do is take his time. Although, actually... Well... Oh god, this is just citizen hoplites. There's something I could try, but it's insane. And it would also involve throwing away my main advantage of this patch of ground. I'm not usually one to try to cling to bits of dirt, but it may be appropriate here. He's pulling his cavalry around. Oh, now you come back. Oh, we missed you. Oh, but in a fragmented state, they're not going to be much good. Well, the rough ground isn't going to save me forever. If I could open up this flank, that would help an enormous amount. But look at the impact odds, because this is offensive spear versus phalanx. Offensive spear doesn't get any POA capabilities against the phalanx. No, I really feel like we're about to get steamrolled. It was fine as long as I held this side, but now that everything's going wrong here, I'm in real trouble. Really, really, really bitterly bad trouble here. I'm now in a situation where I have to take the risk. I have to open this flank up. And that is going to be terrifying. But I need to force this phalanx to turn this way and engage my veteran hoplites over here. I'll take the general to help them do that. And that will eventually open up a flank either here or here. But I've got to try. I've got to do. There is no try here. Please, please, please don't fall back now. And move up. And now we're open. So I have to move up to cover the front now. Move in here. Because he's still covered, he'll be covered by the superior warband coming in next turn. Thorakitai everywhere. Those tough Macedonian Thorakitai are really tricky to get to grips with. That's a lot to invest in just enveloping some Zeistophori. Pin them in place. Keep the general for this turn. Because I'm not far enough forward, they'll just fall back. They'll charge and drop back. It's achieved absolutely nothing. Works for me. Small gains. But I really do think that the Spartans are in trouble in both games now. Though that helps an enormous amount. That pretty much evens up the situation over here. You guys just need to try and stumble away. You're not going to be able to rescue your comrades. This situation is utterly dreadful. But I should hopefully be able to flank at least one of these units. Where's this group's general? Must be this guy here. And this commander-in-chief can jump over to here anyway if he wants. Commander-in-chief can do what he likes, he's in charge of the army. Time for some zone of control trickery, I think. Now he would have to engage in the diagonal. Okay. We probably don't want to go toe-to-toe with those fresh slingers. I'll draw back a bit here. Because that unit can't advance now, and if he tries to attack, he'll expose a flank. Whatever he does. But I do want to force him to... Let's see. I'm probably not hedging my bets particularly well here. I do want to force him to form square. Which I will achieve if I keep this formation. I think this is alright. Now we've just got these units to sort out. Well, if they are going to break soon, they might disrupt on pulling back. It's up in the air, really. No point in charging that. That's a terrible idea. And but the armored cavalry would probably be okay. Because we can fight them. But I don't want to expose anything that could lead to him putting a general in charge of his army. We've got an advantage here. Let's just see if we can exploit it. And I've got troops moving up here anyway. We are starting to get the glimmers of an advantage on this flank. Next turn. So as expected, he's formed square. That is going to be a crushing impact. We held, but as we'll see in my Galatian Spotlight video, those superior warbands are extremely dangerous troops. They'll be flanked next turn. Thankfully they held on. Here's the real test. Brilliantly done, lads. The 3 of 4 I got themselves beaten up a little bit, but it's nice work. Ah, it's another 1% gone. That's the interesting thing about the tournament. Even when you're winning, you feel every percentage point keenly. Oh, how I wished I'd brought them up now to help. This unit needs help more. This unit's more vulnerable. I guess I'll go for the one that needs help more. And that's just killed a lot of pikemen. I'm surprised there's only a 43% chance to lose against the superior warband. No, oh god, the cavalry. That's why I moved them around there. That's suicide. My tendency to put all of my generals on the flanks is starting to bite me. And of course, if we break off here, in fact, if I lose anywhere here, that's extraordinary. Do we have a general around here anywhere? Oh, they're part of this group. They're part of that gang. Do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you? I can't get the flank still. Ah, but never mind, they've fragmented anyway. Yeah, pretty sure that was a loss in impact. Yup. Not really sure why we're still winning here. I think this unit doesn't have much steam left, that's the only reason we were okay there. So these 3 of 4 those Thorakitae will start to get the qualitative edge back as the combat moves on. Oh god, why are all my plans insanely dangerous? So that unit's going to continue to get pushed back. I can set up a flank attack, but they'll interfere. So all I have to do to prevent that and set up a flank attack here is be prepared to go toe-to-toe with a phalanx and a superior warband. Not a good idea. Keep them back, I don't want them getting charged by the armoured cavalry. Aye, for real this time, lads. So much is probably going to go wrong here. Next turn. It can't possibly be over already. Stomp. Crash bang wallop oops a daisy. There they go. Well, they got 5% out of it at least. Their flank is now completely open. Oh, clever. I didn't even see them. And the phalanx is going to come apart. Oh goodness, and a disruption in the other pike phalanx. Oh, the phalanx is down, it is looking grim for him. I can fix that. Take a general while you have the chance. Well, we can't move to exactly the position we want, but I can at least get in the way. Okay. That's possibly not the best, because he can just move in and block me, and what exactly are my pikes going to do? I'm honestly better off trying to break this lot. What about over here? So if I move here, that stops them. Oh, but then he's got the armoured cavalry here. Let's see. I can still possibly do something with this. So the idea is to occupy the square here. But I think I have to be pointing this way. So I think they'll just drop back. I don't know if that that does trap them in. That does trap them in, and then I can just move up and block his armoured cavalry off. So we'll get them. Don't worry, we'll get them. I didn't think before doing that, did I? Great. Well, there goes my chance for a flank attack. So an utterly ridiculous situation has happened in the other game where he's basically had no luck at all and his line has just melted away. And it seems to be continuing in this game because he's honestly had horrendous luck this entire time. Barring what happened to my troops in the early part. Not quite sure what I was hoping to achieve there. This, however, is going to be very one-sided. Still amazed that these citizen hoplites are able to do so well against a superior warband. Well, we have the advantage, so let's take the chance. And if this unit gets pushed back, we'll get the flank there as well. And I see 2 open flanks here. 3 open flanks. Yeah, this is over. Now, especially now it's over. And that nullifies the situation over here. Do I want to give them the general and try to get them to hold on long enough? Let's give it a shot. They hold on this turn. Right, next turn. The madness continues. They're not going to hold long enough. So these 3 units are about to get slaughtered 3 ways to Sunday. A disrupted unit holds on despite all odds. Ouch, good choice of target. You might pick up some percentage points here, because they're going to auto-break. And luck doesn't come into that. This general managed to catch my units out there. That's going to do nothing. So nothing really left to do now except watch the meltdown continue. It hasn't been as severe in this game, but you go and watch the other game and see what happened there, and you'll see what I mean when I'm talking about bad luck. It really was extraordinary. Oh, I can't actually get both flank attacks here. Probably best to take this one first. Oh, even with all that pressure, because the veterans are on the rough ground. Try and force the issue. This could get bad. My skirmishers continue to bombard the pike square. I'm trying to decide whether to attack here or here. What are my chances? We really need more help against this unit. Again, we withstand a very risky impact there. That's a fragmentation. Finally, something normal happens. Trouble is that if I engage here, they will flank me here. I think under the circumstances, to try and protect my light javelin for just a little bit longer, I'll take it. Because this battle is going to end soon anyway, I'm trying to protect as many of my units as I can. We hold on again. If they hold on for another turn, we'll get another flank attack. Right, next turn. Wave of rallies. Well, you certainly do some luck at some point. Priorities, lads. These are actually good rolls given the amount of pressure his units are under. He was going to fail somewhere. Or so you'd think. After the last couple of turns, I wouldn't be so sure. This could actually equalise things a little bit. Which is not good news for my tournament chances, but it's probably good for the game itself. Crunch. We can't general up. I'm kind of hoping to break them instantly. Well, I am hoping to break them instantly. And that way they'll run away and I'll be able to flank those slingers. That is exactly what has happened. Can we get rid of them immediately? No, we can't. Which unfortunately means that I need to turn now because I can't ignore the threat from this pike phalanx a moment longer. Oh lord. Someone needs to bring those maniacs down. Maybe we crack this unit first. Oh, they're stubborn. This group in the centre is really stubborn. They're not willing to go down like the rest of their mates. They're gonna fight us. Give them a shove. Crack. Not where I wanted them to run, to be honest. I kind of want my general back. If this is going to continue for a little while longer. Certainly not done wonders for my rout percentage. Oh, they are right on the brink of breaking, but I can't because they'll get flanked if I charge now. It would have been funny if that was the unit that broke them, and of course they could rally next turn. In which case this unit's in trouble. Superior warbands, they're incredibly dangerous. And that unit's hovering over us. Yoink! Luck returns to form, I see. Next turn. We apparently come to the end of our bloody affair. Don't start coming back now! Is he trying to get them to break? Crunch. On today's episode of Things That Should Never Happen. Here we go. But that's the end of it. And just to make it even more decisive. I have... Let's just get to the army review screen. So I really do have no words for that battle. First of all, we have this ridiculous situation where one of my units breaks out of pretty much nowhere. My troops hold out time and time again throughout the battle. I think I had so many lucky rolls there that... How did this not all come undone? Like, I mean, I knew once I got into the flanks here that I had a good chance here, but how did we manage to stay together in the center? These units held on for a very long time. Not one of my units failed suddenly, and that all just went together to make Hyde's position impossible. I think this... I mean, I'm partially coming off of my other match with him where luck really was completely decisive. I think my tactics had more to do with my victory here because I did manage to split these phalanxes in two directions, and I did manage to set up targets. In the other battle, it was nothing to do with what I did. Hyde's army just exploded. But here, it kind of went the other way. It was less that his army exploded, and more my army failed to explode. Those citizen hoplites held out for far longer than they should have, and they managed to win the battle. And over here, everything just seemed to go wrong for him. I think he had several breaks here, which were on even ground, and he still lost. I think I did get the better of him in the cavalry situation because I managed to outmaneuver him here. Right, what you're probably here for is okay, so I always try and approach these situations from what could the other players have done differently. So, I mean, I think I was a little bit clumsy. Rather than going in this awkward step formation, which was easy to close off, but then again, that ended up saving my bacon when I was able to get around this pike phalanx, so the step formation wasn't a bad idea. I just had to adapt to it as my opponent lengthened the line, and that was the correct response. Lengthen the line, try and draw it thin. And then once the step formation can no longer threaten your flanks, smash through the phalanx in the center. He attacks the rough ground with the... I think it was his mercenary hoplites. I can see, I mean, he kind of had to do that because with my unit there, none of his other units could get past it. Anyone else who came through would have exposed their flank. And I said, what he should possibly... Well, then again, I had plenty of skirmishers, so he couldn't just knock them off the field with skirmishers. If he could have won the skirmish, he could have taken that approach of just wearing down my units on the rough ground. But what that happened is that unit bounced off, and that allowed me to turn the flanks of his pike phalanx. But even that was kind of a desperate gambit by me. I had enough faith in the veteran hoplites because General up there more than capable of holding their own against the pike phalanx. As it turns out, I wasn't aware of that at the time. But the fact that these, I think it was a unit one of the units, I think it was a 3 or 4i. So we're talking about medium units which are attacking into open terrain. They've got a cohesion problem, and they've got a 50% chance of losing the melee each turn. By all rights, that unit should have at least disrupted by the time I got the flank attacks in, but it just didn't happen. I had a unit right here that was engaged with Tharkita. I think it's that unit there. No, it's this unit back here that they held out forever against the Tharkita. All that would have had to happen is this unit lost a melee and dropped. Actually, dropped. I say that actually, no, that was the attacking unit, wasn't it? So no, that wouldn't have worked either. So yeah, I guess I did kind of have him here. But there was also this situation. Now, I did manage to lock this down and delay him, but that was really more of a delaying action. He hit me hard here, and he should have got more breaks than this, really. But it goes to show if you can... This is why I favour flank attacks over just trying to smash through with superior forces. You're always fighting the luck element in this game. And if everything you can do to bypass that percentage chance to just get straight to the disruptions and fragmentations is something you have to go for. So always try and rely on flanking if you can, even if it's through clever positioning because you have the smaller army rather than just going around the sides. Because trying to rely on troops to give out under cohesion tests, however likely it is, you're taking a gamble. And as I said in another part of the video, never take a gamble that you don't have to in this game. So I really think that's the takeaway from this message. Just you need leave as little as possible up to chance. But it was very difficult because, as I said, the whole thing which set this off is that failure in the centre when his units bounced off my 3 or 4i. And if that hadn't happened, then this battle could well have gone very differently indeed, even with my troops being as persistent as they were. Although this situation was a disaster zone, and I think I would have gotten around the flank eventually with everything that was happening over here. Anyway, folks, this has been Napoleon Complex. Thank you for watching the video. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.